Hi, everybody, and welcome to Pop Therapy, a podcast where we explore the intersection between psychology and pop culture. There's so much to unpack, so let's get started. Well, if it isn't another podcast episode. Hi, it's me, Omar, your friendly neighborhood therapist, and lately... And I'll explain why. Lately, I've been thinking about villains. So for the past couple of days, I've been thinking a lot about villains. So one of the reasons why that's come up for me is because I was recently speaking to a writer, and he was sharing with me his thoughts on how he writes and develops a villain, right? And just like the villain origin story and how important that is in the development of a character that's a villain and how it informs their decision making and all that interesting stuff. And I also recently had clinical supervision. So for therapists, often we get together with other therapists. Sometimes it's a group, sometimes it's just like one-on-one, but we get together with other therapists and we kind of troubleshoot together. We'll talk about cases. We'll talk about things that are happening with our clients. Sometimes it's thematic. Sometimes we'll say like, oh, I'm noticing all of my clients are dealing with X, right? Like they're all dealing with, loneliness or something like that, right? And other times it's more specific, case specific, like, oh, I have this one client who's really struggling with finances and they're really having a difficult time, managing their finances. It could be something like that. And one of the things that came up during that clinical supervision was this idea of the importance of sitting with being the bad guy sometimes, right? That as much as we'd like to be the hero in every story, especially our own, sometimes we are the villain. Sometimes you're the villain. Sometimes you're the bad guy. Sometimes you're the asshole, right? Like any variation of that, it's the same thing. And I use the term villain kind of to be a little hyperbolic on purpose, a little dramatic on purpose, but I think it drives the point home clearer. But the importance of accepting instances where you're the bad guy and how important it is to sit with the discomfort of that, to sit with the guilt or shame that comes up when you've made a mistake, when you've hurt someone's feelings, when you are the villain in someone else's story. I think oftentimes I find that we as human beings, we rush to fix it, solve it, repair it, make things better. And I think it causes like a sloppy repair job, right? When you don't sit with the hurt you've caused, when you don't sit with the fact that maybe in that moment you're the villain, you get pretty shoddy, or rather you provide pretty shoddy apologies. The famous one that comes to mind is, I'm sorry you feel that way, or I'm sorry you took it that way. That's like a pretty, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, like, as far as I know, that is a pretty good example of someone who is not sitting with the fact that they're the villain in that moment, or they're the asshole in that moment. And sitting with it, sitting with the guilt and understanding it is what helps you repair better, actually. It's what helps you repair the relationship. It's what helps you kind of make amends, right? I think the only proper way of making amends and of repairing is by sort of understanding like, oh yeah, I was shitty. That was a shitty thing that I did. So that's just been on my mind. It's difficult to sit with. It's really, really hard to sit with an instance, a moment when you're the bad guy. I encourage you to do it with help and support. You don't have to do it by yourself. And this doesn't mean you're a bad person. And it doesn't mean you are the villain or a villain overall. But I think we have to sort of own and accept our villainous moments. And I think that's part of the reason why villains are so compelling to us. I think it's a little bit of like, oh, game recognized game. I think there's something in a villain that we see in TV and movies and literature that we kind of recognize in ourselves. And I think that's one of the reasons why we find them so compelling. So instead of pretending like that's not there, or instead of shoving it away into some dark corner, I think the more that we accept it as part of the human condition, the better equipped we'll be to make sure that we aren't always the asshole. That's that's the hope, I guess, right? Or that when we are the asshole, that we are doing all the things necessary to repair the damage that's been done. But we got to sit with it first. And we sort of have to be like, yeah, I was the asshole in that moment. With that being said, I am so excited to introduce our guest today. I mean, from the second I was conceiving of this podcast, I kept thinking, well, there has to be like a Buffy-centric episode. There just has to be. And it was pretty obvious to me that this guest was going to be the one, like, okay, like he was like, this is going to be my number one ask. And then, and I had some backups in case he said no, of course. But I'm so pleased to have him here. This guest is the host of the podcast Slayer Fest 98, which is a Buffyverse and Marvel-focused queer Latinx-run pop culture podcast. Please welcome into your hearts, Ian Carlos Crawford.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having me. That was quite the intro.
Oh, yeah. I want to hype you up. I want to hype you up before. Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm going to say this 200 million more times, but thank you so much for taking the time. For my listeners, this is a very busy man. There is a lot that he is doing. The podcast alone, if you take a look at his Instagram, SlayerFest98, I mean, the amount of effort and attention to detail and work, it's just so obvious to me, just how much care you take in the work that you do, especially as it relates to the podcast. How has that been? How is has it been a journey? Not to sound cliche, but has it been quite a journey for you?
I mean, to add to the cliche, yes, it has been quite a journey.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what I was doing when I started the podcast. It was with two other friends that one dropped out after we did the first 2 episodes. The other one dropped out during season 5.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, once it was just me and I had rotating co-hosts, I kind of went full force lean. This is my baby. This is going to be my thing. It's not I knew it wasn't going to be, make me rich or anything or be a full-time career, but it was, if it's me, if I'm Slayer Fest 98, I want it to be as very curated, very the best I could do under my $0 budget.
Yeah.
So I kind of figured out where I could have folks work with me, what folks I could get a hold of. I do feel like I interned at BuzzFeed in 2015.
Okay.
And that was kind of like a crash course in everything that I do for my podcast, because I had to learn to query celebrities, to do an interview. Of course, it's much easier when you worked at BuzzFeed in 2015 because people saw BuzzFeed and were like, yes, we'd love to talk to you.
Yeah.
But that, and I did my first ever celebrity interview was Amber Benson when I worked at BuzzFeed.
Oh, that's
so it kind of
cool.
set the tone.
I met her recently for the first time.
She's so nice.
By the way, so I was shaking. We were at. I'm so sorry to cut you off, but real quick, we were at. So Charisma Carpenter started a podcast.
Yeah.
And we were at the launching of it, and that's where I met her. And so she was at the bar, just reordering a drink, and I was just standing behind her like a weirdo next to my boyfriend, who was go talk to her, go. Anyway, I'm glad that I did. She was, I couldn't have asked for a better first meeting of it's someone who is just burned into my brain as one of the most important characters in the Buffyverse. It was so lovely. She was so lovely. So it's nice to hear that you had a similar experience.
The recorder they gave me wasn't charged. When I sat down, I was like, oh my God. And it had nothing to do with me. It was just the one they gave me, but it was fully dead. And I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And she was just like, it's okay. if you want to change it up, we'll change it up. And
Work.
literally, luckily, I had that was back when these were big, like the whiteboard posts where people would write something and hold it up.
Yeah.
So literally last minute was like, could we just do fuck, marry, kill Buffy and I'll photograph you holding up? She was like, yeah, sure. And like she made it so easy. And because it was like, I don't know, I was new. I was like, I shouldn't ask her for a selfie.
Yeah.
And as I'm saying bye, she was like, oh, don't you want to take a selfie? And I was like, oh my God, yes, please.
Oh
That would
my
be great.
God. Yeah, that's the best. When they initiate that, you don't feel like you're bothering them in that moment. Because that is one of my biggest concerns, really in general. I'm just always like, I don't want to bother anybody. Right. So with a celebrity, it's like times a million. You know what I mean? Right. So yeah.
And we got along so well that like she knew one of my BuzzFeed coworkers, and at the end she just liked me and was like, "Oh, don't you know Louis Peitzman?" She was like, "We're going out together after this. Why don't you come out with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, great."
Yeah. Sure. I'll
met at the
look
Bell
at my
House.
calendar real quick.
Yeah. I get to the Bell House and she's like, "Oh, Ian, this is my friend Tom Lank. This is my friend Adam Bush's parents," because his band was playing at the Bell House that night. And I was just like, this is wild. I just met Adam Bush's parents and Tom Lank at the bar with Amber Bent. Like, what is this? And it was like a crash course in like dealing with, especially celebrities that like are near and dear to like our hearts, because it's like, oh, these were part of a show that we love.
Right.
And then we all went to the diner afterwards. It was so nice. Everyone was just really cool.
That is so cool.
And I really think that like specifically that whole experience shaped me doing the podcast, because it was like, okay, I know I can feel comfortable talking to these people,
Yeah. It's so random hearing you talk about Amber, BuzzFeed. So years ago, maybe like 10 years ago, I did a BuzzFeed video. It was like a couples therapist talks about like famous couples in pop culture history. And so the BuzzFeed producer gave me a list of couples, from like the I Love Lucy era to Friends. And there were no gay couples on there. So I said, love this list. Could I please add Tara and Willow from Buffy? And so they were one of the couples that I spoke about in like, this is my own bias, but like, I don't care, in like a really positive way. I was basically like, this is relationship goals. And I sort of broke down why this particular relationship was like a template that's like a really healthy one to use in everyday life for like the average person. So it's just like funny hearing you talk about these like pieces, BuzzFeed, Amber, because in some like weird a million degrees of separation way, I'm like connecting to everything that you're saying right now. That is so cool.
And at the time, I kept in touch with Amber's publicist, who was this very nice woman named Melanie. She was the one that reached out to me because she saw that I was a BuzzFeed writer that had written a couple of posts about Buffy. And it was like, cool. My client, Amber, has a book coming out. Would you like to interview her? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Melanie was the sweetest. She got me in touch with she put me in touch with James. When I started the podcast, she put me in touch with James Marsters, Jane Espenson. Like, she was very helpful in all that. And now, I became that annoying person that's like, I'll keep querying.
Yeah.
when I first had Charisma Carpenter on, I like kept joking with her that was the end goal of my podcast, was to get Charisma. And she was like, well, why didn't you just email me? And I could name her publicist, her agent, and her manager all by heart because I'd emailed them so many times.
Oh my God. You're like, girl, I tried.
I was like, I've been trying. Yeah.
That is so awesome. So, the first question I want to ask you is probably one you've answered a million times. So bear with me, but I'd love to hear a little bit about how Buffy came into your life. How were you introduced to the Buffyverse?
So, and I honestly never get tired of telling this story.
Me neither.
I've told it 100 times on the podcast. We'll tell it 100 more. Literally the first time I watched Buffy, my mom was really into Buffy, and I was like a nerd that was like a little judgy. Like, I was like, oh, I like X-Men comics. Like, Buffy, that seems like stupid.
Yeah.
And I walked into the kitchen one day when she was watching the literal end of Becoming Part Two.
Oh. Ooh.
Buffy had I literally walked into the kitchen. It was like, one of those old box TVs we used to have.
Yeah.
And she's like crying, weeping at the
Yeah.
kitchen table because I walked in as Buffy's stabbing Angel.
No.
And I remember being like, holy crap, my mom is crying a lot. And then watching it and being like, oh, wait, Sarah Michelle Gellar's a really good actor. Like watching her cry and just being like, wait, maybe I want to get into this.
Yeah.
And here we are.
And here we are all these years later. Yeah. So your story is so much more poignant than mine. I watched the movie. So I remember seeing the trailer for the movie, and anytime there is a girl with superpowers doing karate, I am like, sign my ass up. Like, I don't care. I don't need a plot. I just need a woman with superpowers doing karate, and I'm in. So I watched the movie. My older brother took me, watched the movie, and I really liked it. I just like had a great time, and then kind of forgot about it after a little while. And then once I started seeing trailers for the show, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember loving the movie when I was younger. This is so cool. And I literally just since day one, I started, with my VHS sitting in front of the TV and just started watching it from the beginning. And I'll till this day, I still do like a rewatch once a year. Right now, my boyfriend's watching it for the first time.
That's a requirement for dating any Buffy fan.
100%. Yeah. And he knew that he was, I didn't push it. But he was like, I know I have to watch the show. And I'm like, yes, you do. I'm not going to say anything, but you're right. You better watch the show. And we're in season 4 right now. We just finished Superstar, and, and he's having all the I was going to say the right reactions, but meaning.
I know what you mean. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, there
meaning
is a
he's
right reaction.
obsessed. He was obsessed with Cordelia and so sad after season 3 when she went to Angel. In fact, there was the episode where Spike kidnaps Willow and Xander. They kiss. Cordelia and Oz find them, and Cordelia falls and gets impaled, and then they cut to a funeral scene.
The cruelest.
Mike, my boyfriend, he was started yelling, and then shortly after realizes that was a fake out, and he said, Omar, I was really getting ready to stop watch. I was like, I'm not watching this anymore if they kill off Cordelia. He was like, absolutely not. And I was like, I get it. I remember jaw on the floor when that scene happened. And so he's having a lot of again, the right reactions. He loves Faith. He feels a little iffy about Xander a lot of the time. So things like that, I'm like, so it's been nice to sort of relive to sort of relive that through his eyes, kind of watching it for the first time vicariously through him. Have you had similar experiences when you're rewatching it or rewatching it with someone else?
Every person who's ever dated me has gone through Buffy. I lived with I had 2 different straight guy roommates in Brooklyn. Both of them, I went through Buffy and Angel with them. The one we we were moving out and we didn't finish Angel, but okay. I think he got to season 2 of Angel, but he wasn't as into it.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've gotten so many people to watch it. My best friend, Kim, we had been best friends since 8th grade. The way I got her, she tells a story and I had forgotten about it. I kept wanting her to get into Buffy, and she really liked Xena when we were younger. So it's still same. Not a crazy leap. They're not the same, but it's and I kept being like, you will like it. I know you'll like it. So I lied to her and was like, oh, it's leaving Netflix, so you have to watch it before it leaves Netflix. This is when
genius. Diabolical genius.
And that was how I got her to watch it, and she really liked it, and now she's a co-host on my podcast. So
oh, that is so cool. I love like manipulating her into watching it. But it's good for her. It's like, this is what's best for you. I know what's best.
Yes.
What are some of your favorite? I mean, like when you think about the show, Buffy specifically in general, what are some of your favorite like episodes or moments that come to mind? Is there like a go-to episode that you watch a bunch if you're feeling some type of way? The reason why I ask is because I have one that like whenever I'm feeling like sad or not confident or lost, my go-to is The Freshman. I've seen that. That's probably the episode I've watched the most, honestly.
It is a good episode. I like it.
Yeah. So that's why I ask you, like, what comes to mind?
My favorite episodes are Hush, Restless, and Once More with Feeling, and then it gets a little depending, but my go-to, honestly, when I'm feeling whatever, is usually Becoming Part 1 and 2. Because I really her running is maybe my favorite moment.
The slow motion running
with that slow motion run with that jacket that is gorgeous. And the like voiceover narration is so good.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the thing I love about that in particular is, and this is, I mean, you know, a Latin mother. My mother loved Buffy because she'd be like, well, she can like lose and she gets right back up. She can lose, she can have a moment of like, I need to cry, and then she goes back and fights again. And that's like one of her first like really big, like she loses, right? And for me, that's like important to be able to see that my hero can lose. And like her plan went to shit, right? Like she didn't succeed. Kendra died. Her friends are like really injured. And that's like, I really appreciate that I can see her fail and then still go through it all. And then at the end, when Angela says like, take all that away, what's left? And she grabs a sword and says, me, like,
every
so
time, I like well up every single time. And just that scene when like, oh gosh, I could talk. Anyway, I'm just like, I'm like reliving it as we speak. Just the way they edited that episode too, between the fight, between Angelus and Buffy and Willow casting the spell. And I just remember like sweating watching this, thinking, oh my God, like the timing, is she going to make it in time? What's going to happen? And ultimately the spell working, but not in time was, I mean, so heartbreaking. And also such a, looking back on it after watching the whole series, of course, like such a poignant moment for Willow's story arc. That's like when you first notice like, oh shit, there's something, like she's powerful and maybe she doesn't realize it, or there's like more to this Willow character than just like the nerdy smart one. There were just so many things happening in that episode, and for the spell to work, Angel gets his soul back, and to still have to be sent to hell is like, oh damn, that, I mean, broke my heart.
But she does it. But she does the thing, and that's what I love so much about it. Is like her first plan failed. The second plan is just, well, I'm gonna have to kill him if it doesn't.
Right.
And she does.
Yeah.
That's why I a thing that always bothers me is Dead Man's Party, because I'm like, I get really mad at Joyce when she's like, you left.
Yes.
You said you can't come back.
Right.
So like you need to be apologizing, not Buffy.
Yes.
That always made me so angry.
Yeah.
And it still does. Like when we, you know, in Slayerfest, we've been revisiting episodes as they turn 25. And when we revisited that, I was like still getting angry.
I hear you.
Because everyone's like mad at Buffy and ganging up on her. And like, sure, Willow, I can see a little bit more because she did not kick Buffy out and she loved her and she was very supportive. Willow, I can see being upset. But the fact that like Willow, then Joyce, and then Xan, and everyone's like piling on her, and Joyce isn't taking accountability, like that makes me so mad. And again, I know that you know a Latin parent. My mother hated Joyce forever after that. She never forgave
No
her.
way.
She would be like, I remember when she kicked her daughter out.
Oh my gosh. And let me tell you something, Latin people, we know how to hold a grudge. So don't
Yeah.
don't cross us. Don't cross us. That is so funny. Rewatching it with my partner, he had the same reaction, which was like, why is everyone being such a bitch to Buffy? And I'm like, I know, it's really hard to get through. I just, I'm white knuckling it the whole time while watching. And I, I can understand the complexities between a mother-daughter relationship, like fine, even though I'm still like, Joyce, you better watch it. But Xander, I was like, you just want to be a bitch to her. Like, first of all, you lied about what Willow told you to tell her. And now you're kind of being an asshole just because it felt like you just wanted them to be morally superior. Like you just wanted to be the one that could like wag your finger at Buffy despite being a jerk. I mean,
I do have a very spicy take about that, though.
Oh my God. Yes, please.
I actually don't think he was in the wrong for lying to her, because I do think she would have been pulling her punches. I think she absolutely would have been pulling her punches and would not have fought as hard. And the only reason she made it is because she fought so hard.
Yeah.
And I do think, I know, and I like, so like the reason I have my podcast is I like nuance. To these discussions. And a lot of times people are just like, oh, fuck that. I hate him. Blanket hate him. Yeah, he is my least favorite character, but I actually do understand why he lied, because I do think Buffy would have been pulling her punches and she would not have been going so hard.
Right.
While I don't know that Xander's intentions are in the right spot. Yeah. I still do like, I still like am not that mad about. That's right. There are other things Xander does that make me a lot madder, but this is one of the things where I'm like, in the long run, I do think it was better for her.
That is, Ian, for the past 20 something years, I have looked at that moment and been like, Xander, you're dead to me. You are the first person. This is the first take I've ever heard that's made me go, oh, wait, I never thought of it that way. That is such a fascinating take. I could not agree more. I think you're absolutely right. She showed up to the fight like ready to go down. Like she was like, this is to the death. Like the both of us are not walking out if you're alive.
Yeah.
And that was like the attitude she needed to have in that moment in order to literally save the world. Yeah. But you're totally right. I think if she knew that there was a possibility that the spell was going to work, she would have been pulling her punches or have gotten like sloppier or softer, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't think we would have had the iconic catching the sword with her hands moment. Yeah. I can't believe you just changed my mind. I cannot believe you just, and what, to echo what you mentioned earlier, that certainly wasn't Xander's intent. He wanted Angel dead. So like for selfish reasons, I'm still like, no, don't do that. But I don't think the fight would have gone the way that it would have if she didn't think to herself, this is it. Like has to die.
Buffy, we know that she does that, right? Like, think of her with Spike in season 7. Like, I do like them in season 7, but I actually fully understand why everyone is like, why are we concentrating on Spike so much?
Same. Yeah. I was like, girl, come on.
Right. We have an apocalypse. Like, this is kind of, he's just getting in the way. Right. But it's because once she can see the good, she will try her hardest to like somehow make it better or fix it. And I don't know. Yeah. You know, there's like a threshold, right? And this happens with clients a lot, actually, and even with myself. I remember years ago with my therapist, him saying, Omar, part of your job as a therapist is to see the potential in people. And it's your job to help them get there and to root for them and to cheer for them and to like guide them along the way. That is great for work. Sometimes that's not the best thing for you to do when you're off the clock.
Like
Yeah.
at work, fine, but sometimes in your everyday life, you have to be the one to sort of like, I need to step away from this. And like, despite seeing someone's potential, that doesn't mean that it's my responsibility to help cultivate that. So so that, that resonates with me. The fact that like, yeah, I think Buffy saw in Spike the potential for him to be a good man. I think she even says as much to like Giles. Yes, but to what degree? It's like, okay, sure. Well, let him go to therapy. Figure that out. Right. You don't have to help him do that. Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I understood that. Speaking of spicy takes, you just you helped create a safe space for me to share something that usually no one ever agrees with. I'm a Riley apologist. I'm a Riley apologist. I'm sorry.
Omar, wait. So we're revisiting season 5, and me and my one co-host, who's also one of my best friends, Zachary Patton Garcia, we are the only two that we will be like, he didn't murder anyone.
Yeah.
He is the only one of her exes that didn't murder anyone.
Yeah. No.
He's not my favorite character. His worst sin is being boring. Yes. And he is boring. Yes. But like,
as far as the sinning on that show goes, that's pretty tame. Yeah, agreed. Yeah, like he's certainly not my favorite character. There wasn't enough that was like compelling for me, and I don't
think the show was interested in him. Honestly.
Right. Yes, and this is not an indictment on the actor or anything like that. I just agreed. I just think the show was kind of like ready to move on from him. And again, when you're creating a show, like ratings are a thing, right? And, being boring, surprise, surprise to anyone who doesn't know, being boring doesn't bring in the ratings. Yeah. But I actually think one of the reasons why he was boring is the same reason why I would do terribly on a reality show, which is I will just, if there's a problem, I will just talk to you about it and then we'll resolve it. I'm not going to flip a table. I'm not going to throw a drink in your face. I'm not going to like talk behind your back. I'm going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry I said that. I didn't realize I hurt your feelings. What can I do?
Hilariously, one of the very few jobs I have been fired from was I got hired to be a judge in this like singing competition in New York that was like at a bar. And they loved that I worked at BuzzFeed. And after the first episode, they were like, you were too nice. And they replaced me with a drag queen.
Yes, that is. And yes, that would be me. That would be me. They're like, you're too nice or like too rational. Like be kind of insane. You know what I mean? And like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. And so I think Riley's worst sin, right, being boring, was really that he was one of the saner, kind of healthier ones on the show. Like he wasn't murdering anybody. He wasn't, trying to he wasn't like manipulative in any way really, and he just wanted to be loved. Like that's really, he just wanted to be loved. He could feel the Buffy's walls up, which were there, right? Like I think his assessment of the walls of the distance was an accurate one. And I mean, and she talks about it in season 7 when she has the like therapy session with the vampire, where she's like, oh yeah, I have an inferiority complex because of my superiority complex, right? Like, so it's like, oh, so Riley was right. Riley was right that like that she's pulling away, or that she doesn't let anyone get too close to her.
The thing is, I almost feel like, see, the beginning of season 5, like in Buffy vs. Dracula, when he kind of has to take the leader position because he's the next strongest.
Right.
He's written pretty charming there. And I'm like, if we got more of this,
more of that,
I would have liked it. But mostly it's just in season 5, because season 5 is like right where they kind of do character assassination. He's like going to the vamp. He's getting jealous.
Right.
I do think, and I mean, I know I annoy a lot of people in the Buffy fandom because I'm like, okay, but like, think about it.
Yeah,
let's not just say a blanket word.
Of course.
Let's think about it more.
Yeah.
Because once someone posts, I think this was on Twitter a while ago, tweeted like, I don't understand why the Buffy fandom gets more mad at Riley than it does at Spike and Angel when Riley actually was pretty harmless. And I quote tweeted it was like, I agree with this take fully. Riley is not a favorite by any means, but oh my God, people were so mad. People were like, and were like accusing me of being sexist for like defending him.
No
and
way.
Like, yeah.
Damn, they took it and ran. Whoa.
And the thing is, Riley does have an inferiority complex.
Sure.
Because Buffy is better than him. She is stronger. She's better at all the things.
Sure.
And I do think there is a part of him that like had to come to terms with Maggie Walsh and you're the actual therapist here. So correct me, but I feel like
no, this is let's do it. Yeah.
It's like he wanted a mommy figure, but like also resented the mommy figure. And he wanted both from Buffy, but also a girlfriend. And like she has no interest in being mommy.
No. Yeah. She's all set.
And I think, and I think that ultimately his need for like almost the validation for like the whatever that the praise that Buffy wasn't gonna give because that's not her.
Right.
I do think at the end of season 7, that's why her and Spike worked a little better. Once we got through all the caca.
Yeah.
Which is, getting through it is a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like Spike and even Angel to a point, like just accepted, yes, she is more powerful than me. And I like that.
Right.
And it didn't make them feel inferior, made them both horny, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And with Riley, it did both. It like made him horny, but also made him feel inferior. And I just don't think they ever reconciled that.
I think you bring up a good point with him losing his mother figure, Maggie Walsh, and not just losing her by death, but losing her in terms of like who he thought she was.
Yes.
And that it turned out she was the villain. It turned out that, and by sort of vicariously through her, he was the villain. You know what I mean? Right. That he was helping fulfill the at the time we thought she was the big bad, right? But like fulfilling her like evil plan. And I felt for the guy. You know what I mean? And while I think there was the inferiority part that it's one of those things where I'm like, there's your shit. And then there's like the shit you can come to your partner with that you're like, I think we need to work on this. His shit was the inferiority stuff, like for sure. And that's one of those things where I would say, you need to go to your therapist and talk. Don't come to Buffy with that. However, I think the loss of this parental figure, the loss of his identity that was so enmeshed with hers. Yeah. I'm like, this guy just like wants to be loved. Like ultimately, he just wants to feel grounded in a loving relationship because he just lost one. Yep. And so in that instance, I was kind of like, Buffy girl, come on. like I get it. I was pissed too when he was letting vampires feed off of him. I was pissed too. But like, my mind goes into, for better or for worse, like therapy mode. And when a couple comes in because one of them cheated, I don't necessarily think that means it has to be the end of the relationship. It could be. It absolutely could be. But sometimes the transgression is actually where the reset happens, where the old relationship dies and a new one is born, is created, and is cultivated. And I try to some degree, I try to sort of like give couples hope after a betrayal by letting them know, like, yes, this could be the end, but this also could be like a new beginning. And so that's how I looked at that. You're like, okay, so Riley, this is clearly like a cry for help, like him wanting to feel desired, wanted, needed, loved, essentially, right? And I thought it would have been, and this is a TV show. So sometimes I'm like, Omar, relax. They're not going to do all that, but whatever. So, but still in my mind, I remember thinking, there's nothing wrong with being upset with him, but I thought maybe, I thought Riley had valid points that were worth exploring. And I think people give him too hard of a time, and it still kind of confuses me. And it reminds me of people, this is purely anecdotal, of course, but like I've worked with clients before where they avoid boredom at all costs, and they confuse boredom with peace. And I try to, I try to help them sort of unpack like, oh, when things are going well, when there's no fire to put out, you get anxious. You call it boredom. I call it peace. Like, what's going on there? Let's talk about that. And I felt like that was partially what was going on with people's reactions to Riley.
Yes.
I'm like,
yes. And I feel like, to me, that's so obvious that it's like, you're just confusing boring with like bad. And those are not the same.
Right.
Because people in the replies for that tweet were so mad. And then some people were like, well, I know guys like Riley and, blah, blah, blah. And that makes it easier to hate him. And it's like, okay, but that is your own problem. Like that is...
Right.
I don't know what to tell you. He still didn't murder anyone. He didn't sexually assault Buffy. Like,
yeah. And he wasn't like emotionally abusive or neglectful or gaslighty or anything like that. And again, there's I tell people this all the time. Just because someone is nice doesn't mean you have to date them. Like someone could be lovely. Does not mean that you have to date them. This was not that. They were already in a relationship. So that was a little bit different. But I
do think Buffy fell out of love with him. Yes. I do think she did. That's just like the problem.
And that's fair. That is fair. And that happens. Do you think when she runs after him in that final scene, do you still, despite that scene, despite her, being like, oh, fuck, and runs after, do you still feel like, no, you fell out of love with him, and maybe this was her running after him in that final moment was maybe her attempt to like assuage her own guilt or something like that, maybe?
So this is where I'm gonna like bring all of my shit to it. Buffy's mother is sick. Buffy found out her sister isn't real. Buffy is fighting a hell god. The first time ever she's fighting a god.
Yeah.
She did not need another thing in her life that was bad. And I really feel, when my grandma was dying and she was like my favorite person, my ex and I almost broke up. Like there was 2 big blow-ups where I was like, I need to break up with this guy. And then it was just like, okay, but I don't have the bandwidth to go through a breakup
to even do that
while trying to find a new job, while my grandma's dying. It's not like, again, it's not like he was abusive or whatever. It just like, it wasn't quite working, but we lived together. And the idea of like breaking a lease or finding a new, like
was
all
this
of
in
that
New York?
felt, in New York.
And so when you live, I mean, that's the other thing too, like living with someone and then having to find a new place is a absolute nightmare here in New York. So yeah.
So I was like, I remember like having a conversation in my head where it was like, okay, but the like bad outweighs the good with breaking up here because he still was kind of like Riley, where it's like he still will like in whatever crappy way he could was like trying to be supportive. And then he dumped me the day my grandma went into hospice.
Oh my gosh, that's not
it
fun.
wasn't. And it wasn't. I was so sad that it was just like, oh my god, this is happening the same day. Like I did not need another thing. And like, also you'll get a kick out of this. My grandma, when we went to see her, she was like, oh, where's your boyfriend? Oh, she kept asking. And I was like, I'm not going to tell her he dumped me the day she kept asking. And I remember it was like my cousin was like, and I was like, all right, can I have the room? And I told her, and she was like, did he know I was dying? And I was like, yeah, he did. And she grabbed my arm and went, I have money stashed in the dresser in my room. When you go back to New York, they have the real Santettos. Go see one with that money and they'll put a curse on him. And I was like, I appreciate it.
Iconic.
But I'm good.
That is Legends only shit. She's like, that's it. All hands on deck. We're putting a curse on this bitch. That is so heartwarming to hear. I mean, curses aren't inherently heartwarming, but
right. But Ryan, was very cute.
That's a beautiful moment. I really appreciate that. Yeah, the looks I get when I tell people that I'm a Riley apologist, the like responses I get, it's really, and I stand by it. And I am, and I am open, as you've witnessed yourself, Ian, I am open to having my mind changed. Like I am more than open to hearing new information and then being like, oh shit, you're totally right. I have yet for someone to convince me that he was terrible for her, right? Like outside of the fact that she didn't love him, fine, fair enough. But like outside of that, I'm like, no, he was good for her.
I'm also, and I promise I'm not, I'm going to sound like a weird, like conservative boomer, but sometimes I think in fandoms in general, on social media, people hear a talking point and then they just parrot it and like they don't give it a thought.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the like a lot of the canned reactions I get in fandoms from doing this podcast, I could write all the comments I get that are annoying. Like I could tell you exactly what the comments will be because everyone says the same thing over and over again.
Right.
My trick when someone is complaining about one of Buffy's boyfriends, and I say this as someone who loves Spike, and people get so mad at my podcast saying that I'm anti-Spike. I just am open to the complaints about him because I understand.
Right, because they're real complaints. They're not made up complaints.
Anytime someone wants to complain about Angel or Riley, I always say all of her boyfriends were toxic. And every single time it pisses off someone who loves Spike. Yeah. And they like take it as an insult to Spike and then get mad at me every single time. And like, I don't know, that's so boring. Like get a new phrase, get something new to say.
Yeah. Journal about it for a little while, babe. Like why are you so tied to Spike's redemption arc? Right. Like what is that? Yeah, which I did really enjoy as an individual character, Spike's redemption arc. I was like, I am totally here for this. I was not Team Spike and Buffy. I was Team Spike growing as a character for sure. And I loved that. But I was kind of like, get away from Buffy. Like, get away from her. Yeah. So another thought that I've had for a little while is about season 4, which I think famously is like the least favorite. As far as I can tell, it seems to be everyone's least favorite season. Would you agree? Okay. So not that, and I'm not here to make a take about like why season 4 is actually amazing. There are really good episodes. I mean, like you said, Hush, when Buffy and Faith do the body swap. I mean, just chef's kiss episodes. I do find as I'm rewatching season 4 that season 4 is more relevant now than it was when it aired because it's centered around this government, essentially this government agency running around wearing masks, kidnapping, non-humans, essentially. Yeah. Whether or not the demons or the what do they call them? HSTs, hostile subterrestrials, right? Yeah. Whether or not they're good or bad, right? Because they even go after Oz at one point. So whether or not they're good or bad, they're just disappearing demons off the streets and then putting them in literal cages and like doing experiments on them. And, there's this whole thing about like, who gets to say who's good or bad? I think maybe I'd like to think it was intentional, but I'm not sure. But there's also a whole thing about like government, the role of government in the supernatural and like the role that, in like a little bit of like government overreach and authoritarianism. I don't know. As I'm rewatching season 4 now, that's what keeps coming up to me where I'm like, oh, this isn't my favorite season and rewatching it now doesn't make it so, but it feels way more poignant and relevant now than it ever had been. What do you think?
No, the first time we went through season 4, I did hit a lull where I was like, oh my God. Because I do think the initiative stuff, I do think you're correct, but also I do think it's really boring.
Yeah.
And I think it's so weird. I've done so much research trying to figure out, people have said, oh, we only had, now I can't remember the actress who played Maggie Walsh's name.
Oh my God.
Lindsay Cruz. Cruz. We only had Lindsay Cruz for this many episodes. We knew that. And then other people have said, well, we couldn't get Lindsay Cruz for the rest of the season, so we had to change that arc. Like I've heard different stories from every writer that has been asked about it. I think Maggie Walsh, it could have been more interesting if she had stuck around and had it was more
agreed. Yeah.
Because like we were talking about with like the mommy stuff, like that is more interesting than whatever the dynamic was with Adam and Riley.
Right.
Whatever they were. I don't think the show, I think it's one of the few plot lines that wasn't thought out well enough.
Okay.
Like, I feels like the initiative could have been better. Like, we needed one more pass or two more passes.
Yeah. I couldn't quite put my finger on, I haven't been able to quite put my finger on like why that season feels so boring, because on paper it sounds kind of cool. Like
Yeah.
these like army people coming in, and it's like the technology, and they're making this like Frankenstein. Like, I don't know.
Right.
There's like the concept. I'm like, oh, I do really like it. And then I see it and I'm like, oh, I don't care about it. And I think some of it has to do with, to your point, I have questions. I mean, I wasn't in the room, so I don't know, right? This is not an indictment on any of the writers or the actors, but I do wonder, like, oh, I wonder how much thought was put into this, or how much time was spent fleshing this out, or whatever. I also think season 3 was a tough act to follow.
Yes.
And I don't know. And this may be too cynical of me to say, but I think, I wonder if like any season after season 3, any plot after season 3 was just sort of doomed to not be well liked. I just like to go from the mayor and Faith to Adam. I was just like, this feels like a fall from grace. Like,
well, and Adam just also, the villains, they did a good job of making them fun to watch in their scenes. Adam, it would like,
oh, that is
we cut
so
to Adam,
true.
He's talking to random vampire minion
so
who
true.
doesn't matter, but just like delivering plot. There's
Right.
no like Glory's trying on like cute pumps and like yelling at people and looking great.
And drinking
The
mimosas
mayor-
in a bathtub.
right.
And yes. yeah. That
The
is
mayor,
so
like you
true.
said, was like fun, and like Faith was such a good, there was like so much there. And yeah, I think with Adam, he really should have been Maggie Walsh's minion, because Maggie Walsh, there was depth there.
Totally. Yeah. And I never put too much thought into it for whatever reason. I was just sort of like, okay, I don't really love season 4. There are episodes that, again, some of the best.
Some of the best.
But overall, I'm like, I'm good. Yeah. What is it that you think, what is it about Buffy that you find resonates with queer people as much as it does? What are some of the elements that you recognize in the show that resonates with us?
So I actually talked about this with the writer Jane Espenson, and she said that the show was queer subtext until it became queer, like explicit text.
Yeah.
And I think that's really correct, because the Buffy coming out scene with Joyce that's a coming out.
That's a coming out story. Yeah.
Right? Like, that is what that is.
Yeah.
And even like saying it's a coming out, that is a correct analysis of, because she's coming out as a Slayer, right? So she's not coming out as queer, but she's still coming out to her mother about this like secret part that her mom didn't know, and her mom doesn't accept it. And so I think that in general, that whole metaphor of her hiding a part of herself, only letting certain people in, I think that resonates with queer people. The fact that she is, the same reason we always lean to want to play a female character in a video game, or like,
oh my God,
like you said, if it's
100%.
a woman being like cool with a sword or whatever, like, I'm gonna be more on board than if it's a man. And I think that was Buffy as well. Like, she was also always underestimated. A thing that my mom would always say she loved, that I also love, was she didn't have to which is like, sounds a little turfy, but I promise it's not. She didn't have to like sacrifice her femininity to be a like tough badass.
Yes. I think that is what's the word I'm looking for? I think that's like a relevant sort of analysis. I think with someone like Xena, who I loved that show. I love that character, but there were masculine aspects to her, which I enjoyed, don't get me wrong, but it felt like, the messaging felt like, if you want a female protagonist to carry a show and kick ass, she has to adopt masculine traits in order for this to be quote unquote believable. So I agree. I mean, the fact that she just like wanted to do girly things and wore lots of color and gorgeous jackets. I mean, her jacket collection alone, I am like, get me in there. So I think that that's like a fantastic, I think that that's relevant and like a really good analysis of what makes her, this character, special.
Yeah, and I'm now just thinking of when she's at the initiative and they're like, you might want to change. And she's like, oh, I patrolled in this halter a bunch of times. Like,
yeah. I love those memes of someone on a runway in some insane like outfit, like barely covering their chests, and it's like Buffy on patrol. And I'm like, yes. It gets me every time, every single time. The other element that I'm pretty certain you've talked about too is this concept of family and found family and chosen family. And I know, I don't know how recent it was, maybe fairly recently, where you covered the episode Family, when Tara's family comes into town. And I think that episode alone kind of perfectly encapsulates this other element that really resonates with queer people, which is like finding your people and them becoming your family. And that's felt central and crucial to the show from day one, which I think also, resonates with a lot of us. Anytime, so when Buffy was on air earlier on, and people would be like, why are you so into this show? In my head, I wouldn't like say this out loud, but in my head, I would be like, a show about a girl with a secret identity that she has to keep from people while fighting both her own inner demons and literal demons. Like, you don't think that resonates with me? This little gay boy, this little closeted gay boy. Like, yeah, duh. That was one of the first shows that felt like it spoke to me. You know what I mean? Until this day, nothing speaks to me quite like Buffy does. And, meeting some of the actors that have been on the show has been such a lovely experience. Have you met Sarah Michelle Gellar yet? No. So I met her once at Watch What Happens Live. She did Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. My friend books, at the time, was booking the talent for the show. So he was like, oh my gosh, Sarah Michelle Gellar is going to be on. You have to come. And I'm like, sign me up. And it was so lovely. She was so great and funny. I was so nervous that I was just sort of like saying stupid things. Like, she was there with other people, and people were trying to organize like, oh, who's gonna get into whose car. She was with her team and friends and whatever. And I was like, oh, don't worry, I'll drive you guys to your hotel. And she goes, guys, don't worry, he's gonna drive us. He's got us. Everyone relax. And she was like yes-anding me the whole time. And so my sister takes a picture of us. She goes away. Like, we have our little moment. And then I start bawling. It was like 20 plus years of pent up, I don't know, like admiration, fondness, or I don't know what you want to call it, that like I met her, she went away, and then it just like all came out. How generally speaking, how has it been meeting some of the actors and writers from the show? Again, given what you said earlier, given the fact that these characters are so important to us, that the show and its stories were so important to us, how has it been for you?
I think because I was slowly eased into it, like, I'm friendly with Amber still. Like, I had to ask her for help. I asked her if she could help me on a thing that I've been working on, and we had like a nice Zoom call where she was like super helpful. Tom Lenk and I have become actual friends. Awesome. I went to his birthday last year, or 2 years ago. I don't remember what's time. And like, I don't know, it's like slowly been, I don't know. I feel like by the time I have them on, I'm just like, okay, like there's only been a handful of folks where I still can get a little nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, I don't know, like I feel like Charisma, the first time I interviewed her I did get super nervous about that.
Yeah, same.
And then I'm trying to think. I think Julie Benz, I was a little nervous, and then we vibed so well, like she's great.
Yeah, she was at Charisma's podcast. She was like one of the guests. So it was just like great, just like to meet Darla. I was like, what is happening to my life?
the year I went to Hellmouth Con, I asked Claire, I had emailed Claire Kramer and been like, hey, would you and maybe some of the ladies want to do, because it was Pride weekend. I was like,
Hmm.
would you want to do a video saying Happy Pride? And she was like, oh my God, yes, I'm gonna get all the girls. But like it was so busy. It was like so busy that she was like, "Ah, I don't know that I can get, you know what? I'm gonna introduce you to Julie Benz. Do you know Julie? And I was like, I don't. And she was like, great, I'm gonna get her. She got Julie. And she was like, "Oh, you two, you haven't been on Ian's podcast?" And I was like, "This is wild." That Claire Kramer is like, Glory is introducing me to
So
Darla. Like it was
Darla.
so, but it happened so fast that I was like, "Oh yeah, no, we haven't met." I was like, "I would love to have you on." And Julie was like, oh, "Okay, DM me on Instagram. Make sure you say who you are, and we'll talk." And I kind of thought that was bullshit because like
Yeah. Right.
I DM'd her, she gave me her personal email, we emailed, and I've had her on the podcast 3 times since then. Like,
Oh my
so great.
gosh. The first time I met her, it was pretty brief, but I was just fawning over her like, "Oh my gosh, your character of Darla."
Oh my God, isn't she gorgeous in person?
Gorgeous, stunning, 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 stunning. She looks great. And I was also like, and I would be remiss if I also did not acknowledge her role in Jawbreaker, which was
Jawbreaker.
also
I knew that's what you were gonna say.
I was like, those two roles, I was like, made me gay. so thank you so much. She was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." And we chatted for a little bit, but just so warm and friendly and like fun. Just like fun and lighthearted.
The one night we did a watch along of the episode where Darla gives birth,
Hmm.
and she hadn't watched it since it aired,
Hmm.
and she was like had so much fun shit to say about it. But then after we ended up talking for like an hour and a half. I like told her about my ex dying and how I wrote a piece. She was like, "Can you email it to me?" She like read it and immediately sent me like this like long like thing about how good it was, and she was like so kind. Yeah, she has been so great, and I feel like that makes sense why she's consistently been booked and busy, because not
Oh
only
yeah.
is she like a good actor and gorgeous, but also is like so chill and normal
So
and nice.
lovely to be around. Yeah. Go
Yeah.
figure. If you're just nice to people.
Right.
Go figure. So Ian, there's this one question that I like to ask all my guests. I'm gonna pose the question the way I usually ask it, but now I'm gonna give it for you for this episode. I'm gonna give it like a Buffy twist. So usually what I ask is, what is one piece of advice or wisdom that you've gotten from like the mental health world that you live by? So it could be something you learned from your own therapist. It could be something you read in a book. It could be something you heard on a podcast, like whatever. The Buffy twist I want to give it is like, what is a mental health related piece of wisdom that you've gotten from the series that, and it could be like a piece of wisdom, a lesson, a takeaway, a message that you've gotten from the series that is sort of just like at the core of who you are, that you take with you everywhere you go. Please take your time in thinking about it. Please, I can edit out any silence after this. So
Okay. I think, I mean, I already said it, but I try when I'm like at my lowest, which sounds corny. I know to you it probably won't because we are this Buffy girls, but like I really, really do think of Buffy when Angela says there's nothing left and her saying there's me. Like I genuinely think about that a lot when I'm like feeling really down, that like, okay, I do still have me. I do still have my like my personhood. And I do think that's really important. The other thing is more of an overall. I've always been big on, I mean, we're queer, of course. I've always been big on chosen family, but a thing that bothers me about a lot of takes in fandom is that they don't understand what that means, because people are allowed to have flaws if they're in your chosen family.
Right.
It doesn't mean they're perfect and flaw free. Like that's not what that means.
It's not frictionless.
Yes. And I think some people take because people be like, oh, Willow did this or like blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yes. And they all love each other. So like, it's
family.
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They are family. So it keeps going.
Yeah.
And I think some people will get really hung up on like one thing. Like there is a weird corner of the fandom that hates Giles.
What?
Because yes. And it is because of not because of what he does in season 3, but because of him setting up Buffy to like possibly get Spike killed.
Okay, I did not see that coming. I
The
thought it was
Spike
going to be
Girls go
because of
hard.
season 3. Okay, sure. And I mean, I think it goes back to the Spike obsession or the fan. I'm like, what is going on here? Okay, fine. Fair enough.
I would be so curious, like you as a therapist, what you think of that, because it is really weird. Because I do love him. The first time I had James Marsters on, people tweeted at him to be like, "Don't go on that podcast. They're really mean about Spike."
What?
Yeah.
Ian, what the hell?
My other friend Kirsten was writing Buffy books when we were discussing season 7. She had 2 Buffy novels come out. They were like the first of the like when we started doing that. And she said that she did not like Spike. She said that he was written poorly when he was leaving to get his soul, and that's not how you write. And I agree with her. She's right. No matter what Joss says, that's not how you write someone that is like, I love this person. I want to get them what they deserve. As saying that bitch is going to get what she deserves. That is not.
Oh, right.
Sure, it's a red herring.
Right,
I understand, but it's bad writing.
Yeah.
This, like, a Spuffy account, like, bombed my DMs, my comments, my mentions on Twitter to say that we were wrong because Joss had said that Spike was going to get his soul back for Buffy because he loved her, and like would post quotes about it and was like, you need to rescind this. You need to fire that co-host. They started tweeting at her publisher to try to get her fired from writing books. Yes.
Listeners, you can't see,
Right?
but my jaw is on the floor. I am speechless right now. No way. I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna think about what it is about Spike. I mean, I think some of it has to do, I think it's Taylor's all the time. And again, just to be clear, I like Spike's character, everybody. And this is not an indictment on James Marsters. He was fantastic.
He's a great actor.
I didn't even know he wasn't British for the longest time. I thought he was British. So, I mean,
that accent
A+.
is so good. Yeah.
A plus performance all around. I do think that this is related to something that comes up often of just like, it's such a cliche, but like the bad boy, right?
Yeah.
And wanting, feeling some sort of validation or feeling some sort of like sense that I am special when this terrible man changes for me.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value that we derive from that. And I think that's why, you know, I think that's a theme that comes up in like Twilight, for example. And I think that, you know, and I'm reminded of, or rather like a thought that's coming up for me right now is like serial killers getting fan letters and you know, in prison and getting married to like a fan and stuff. There's something, I'll have to think more about it because it's not a fully formulated thought, but there's something that reminds me of this like trope of, oh, but I can change him. And I think that there's like a lot of value and self-worth that people get from that. Because if I can take this monster and turn him into an angel, then what does that say about me? Well, it means I'm really special and that I'm really lovable. And so I think that has something, I have to think about it more again, but like, that's what comes to mind when I think about.
I also, again, I have been doing the podcast for, almost 10 years, but it's always been since the internet existed, right?
Yeah.
So I often wonder if like the death of media literacy has something to do with it.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, serves as the backdrop to everything.
Right. Like I think of, you know, I like Rick and Morty. It's a cartoon I watch, but people that Rick would hate think that like they're acting the way that like Rick Sanchez would be
right.
And like take the wrong lesson from the show is that he is an asshole. He loves this family, but he is like a bad person.
Right.
And he's like trying to reconcile with all this bad shit he does, but does more bad shit.
Yeah.
I think the Tony Starkification of he is a hero despite being a rich asshole, not because of, and people like
yeah. It reminds me of people that take the wrong lesson away from George Carlin's stand-ups.
My dad is a Trump supporter and loves George Carlin.
Yeah, right. Where I'm like, I I don't think you're taking away the right message from George Carlin. So when I think of, I often think of George Carlin when I'm watching Rick and Morty. It's like, oh, these characters feel so similar to me. Yes. So I've had a similar thought where I'm like, I don't think you guys actually, you're not hearing what's actually being said. You're not listening actually. But yeah, the media literacy part, and that's one of those things. Media literacy, fandom, all the comment section has come up in almost every single episode that I've recorded. But almost every time, somehow we go back to what it's like to be online and the fact that folks don't quite know how to consume content without making themselves the main character, right? Like, yes. The ability to say, oh, okay, so this chocolate cake recipe is not for me because I'm allergic to chocolate. So I am not going to scream at this person for posting a chocolate cake recipe because I'm allergic to it.
That's the bean soup TikTok?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. It's, I think it has a lot to do with that. I thought you saying that it was good that Xander lied to Buffy in season 2 so she wouldn't pull her punches was the most surprising thing I was going to hear today. The group, the corner of the universe that hates Giles, that I really am speechless.
I've encountered all kinds.
You've given me so much to think about. Ian, I cannot thank you enough. I know how busy you are. I know how hard you work, especially on the podcast. So I can only imagine how hard you work in every other aspect of your life that's not the podcast.
I appreciate it.
So, I mean, I really appreciate you taking the time. Where can people find you?
You can find me at Ian X Carlos on all social media platforms. You can find my podcast at SlayerFestX98 on all social media platforms. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and watch our video recordings on our YouTube.
And they're really good folks. I mean, again, the attention to detail, the care, like you can tell that this is Ian's baby. And so it's like really, really good to see just like a good person doing something that they're really passionate about. It's nice to see, especially nowadays. It's brutal out there. So it's good. It's so lovely to see like a lovely human being just doing something that they really care about and doing it well. So my hat goes off to you, to another 10 years. Again,
we got the revival coming up. So.
Yeah. So as you all know, I am a therapist, but this podcast is no substitute for good old fashioned therapy. So take what's useful, leave the rest, and don't forget, therapy makes you hotter. Bye.